Let's begin with big labor under siege. Senator Sherrod Brown is an Ohio Democrat, and John Nichols has been covering these union fights for The Nation magazine. John, let me start with you. We're seeing this. This is basically a fight here in the industrial Midwest. These newly elected Republican governors believe they've got a mandate and believe if they don't do it now, they'll never be able to do it in their terms. It's politically been pretty painful for them so far, it looks like. Today, the center is Ohio. Messaging-wise, as you're watching this, as you heard in our intro, Republicans believe they can sell the message this is about union workers having to pay a little bit more for their benefits. Democrats believe they can win this fight if they can turn it into a fight about rights. Who's winning the fight?
Well, right now it looks like the unions and, frankly, the Democrats are prevailing in most of these states. It's a pretty fascinating situation, though. First off, the governors are bleeding in their poll numbers, going down in each of these states, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, Ohio, dramatic drops. At the same time, you're seeing a real movement, especially among white, working-class families with some union ties over to the Democrats. These are really the folks you used to refer to as Reagan Democrats or
right.
more conservative folks. Yeah, and they're moving. There's no doubt of that. Now, how long will that hold? That becomes a more complex question. But I will tell you, you got to the heart of something here in your intro there. If this is referred to as a fight over collective bargaining, the unions win in polling by a little bit. If it's referred to as a fight over collective bargaining rights, if you just add that word rights, they add about 10% onto their number in the polls. Right now, that's what it's seen as. They are doing well there.
Senator Sherrod Brown, let's talk about the fight that's taking place in your state. We know this bill could get signed into law at any moment in Ohio. It's making its way through the State House, then the State Senate, Republican control of both. Then it would get to Governor Kasich's desk. But you have a loophole, essentially, in the state of Ohio that didn't exist in Wisconsin, and that's this idea of taking this legislation and saying, hey, let's let the voters have the final decision on it via referendum. How likely is that going to happen in your home state by this November, Senator?
First of all, I wouldn't call it a loophole. I would call it citizens' right to petition their government and disagree with their government. I think it's absolutely certain that it's going to go to the ballot. I mean, already people are organizing. I've got a website, sherrodbrown.com/Ohio. People can come on it, sign up, begin to work against this legislation, which, John Nichols is right. It's taken people's rights away. And, I thought the elections in November were about jobs and the incredible job loss we've seen kind of the end of the Bush years and into now. And we're doing better now, but not better enough. But I thought it was about that. Instead, it's been about going after a lot of abortion legislation, a lot of going after worker rights. And now they're going after voter rights, and that's why we fight back. That's why I said go on sherrodbrown.com/Ohio and help us fight back, because they're going after rights, and I just don't understand why. I mean, it's really our way of life as a nation. We've had collective bargaining for about 7, 8 decades. That's when we built the middle class in this country. It gives people a right to go to their employer as a group and say, can we have we should share in some of the profits we create for your company. And it works for public employees, it works for private sector employees, and the country's better off as a result. So they're making a terrible mistake for the American people, and they're frankly making a terrible mistake for their own political future, Governor Kasich and the legislature. But the important thing is this is our way of life in this country, and they're wrong.
Well, Senator, let me ask you this. So what do you tell a school board or a school district that is seeing less money because we know tax revenues are down? This economy, particularly in Ohio, tax revenues are down, and they're sort of limited, right? They get boxed in a little bit on their budget. But the collective bargaining agreement that they have with their teachers in that county or that school district make it so they can't move the numbers at all. And instead, they feel like they're faced with, well, I can't renegotiate this right now, so I'm forced to lay off teachers. Are you for loosening up some of these rules on these collective so that maybe negotiations get reopened more frequently?
I met with a group. I did a little roundtable at an Episcopal church right by State House Square maybe a month ago. Police officers, firefighters, teachers, nurses, others. And, you know, one of the things that came through, police officers negotiate for bulletproof vests at the bargaining table. Teachers negotiate for class size. If a school district's really threatened financially, as many are, I think they sit down with teachers through the bargaining process and they work through some questions. Are you willing to give up something that for your retirement now, put a little more in yourself in order to save other teachers' jobs and keeps classrooms smaller? I think those are reasonable issues. But one police officer said to me, a guy named Mike Taylor, a police officer in Ohio, now retired, but very active for years, he said to me that you know, he said before collective bargaining in Ohio, cops used to have the blue flu. They used to call in saying they were sick because they had no other way of making their voice heard. We don't see that kind of labor strife now. Collective bargaining has actually brought peace to labor negotiations by and large because people are talking to each other. And why do these people want to take that right away? Why do these Republican ideologues, they're not governing for practical reasons of creating jobs and building your economy or fixing the budget. They're negotiating a very political, very ideological edge to it. That's why we're fighting back.
Hey, John Nichols, I'm curious. You've been watching these fights in the states. And I'm going to ask the senator the same question, but I want you to have to answer it first, which is, it appears messaging-wise, Democrats are being more effective at taking this budget fights that are taking place in the states and turning it into a policy argument. But they're able to do that at the state level, but not doing a very good job on the federal level. Why do you think that is? John Nichols first, and then Senator, I want you to have to respond to that.
Well, I hope I don't get in trouble with Sherrod Brown, who I've covered on and off for about 30 years. But I will tell you the bottom line. I've been in these states, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and the reason they're doing better at the state level is because they're not listening to the messaging shops in Washington. The Democratic Party and, frankly, a lot of the national unions do a lousy job of talking to the American people because they talk in stilted, weak, compromising terms. In Wisconsin, they started out with a message. An injury to one is an injury to all. Old-fashioned labor talk. And you know what? Everybody got excited, not just union people, but farmers, retirees, students. And so I just think that, in a sense, these state struggles have borrowed a page from some of the more militant Republicans, right? Conservatives don't pull their punches. They talk tough. And you're seeing these unions talk tough, be aggressive, and people like it. They want to fight.
Senator, so that's why I put the question to you. We're watching this fight that you guys are having about the budget right now, the federal level. And it seems messaging-wise, Republicans have won the fight because you're arguing over numbers. You're not arguing over policy. You're arguing over numbers. What do you say to this? You've been one of these populists. You use a populist language. You're not somebody I would mistake for somebody that listens to focus group language. But why is it that you've struggled on the federal level and had a little more success here on the state level politically?
Well, I think when the president weighs in more strongly, you'll see a different. You'll see a better, clearer message, and you'll see us winning. But I don't really disagree with John on that, or with the presumption of your assumption of your question. I think that I think I'm learning from watching Ohio and Wisconsin do this, because it really is whose side are you on, and we've got to fight back when they take away our rights. And I ask people without overdoing this, go to my website, sherrodbrown.com/Ohio. Help us fight back, because when we do, we're going to win. Because when you make the contrast, they're taking away our rights. We want to help them solve this budget problem. We want to help them create jobs. But when their focus is take away rights, take away women's rights, take away voting rights, take away worker rights, they're going to lose this fight. And because the American people understand what our way of life's all about. That's why I'm optimistic. And the more that we in Washington learn from what Columbus is doing, and what they had rallies in Mansfield, Medina, and all over the state, smaller communities that would draw hundreds of people, because they know that they're taking away something that's a long American tradition. It's an American value.
All right. Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat from Ohio. John Nichols of The Nation magazine. I got to leave it there. Thank you both for coming on Hardball.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.